The leader of the Cerberus occupation is General Oleg Petrovsky. He's a merciless bastard.
Alright, we played a little 20-minute snippet of the DLC, and that was quite horrific. That's perhaps the most gory thing I've seen in Mass Effect yet. Can you tell us a little bit about just general overview of what people should expect from it?
Yeah, so the premise of Omega, this DLC, so first is the biggest DLC we ever made in the franchise history. So total, it's 4 hours of gameplay. And the premise is basically how far are you willing to go to help Aria retake Omega. And for people who have played Mass Effect 2, they know that Aria is a very special character, let's say. And for people who haven't, they will discover that. But this is really the moral choices we wanted to give the player, and these 4 hours of gameplay are turning around that. And also, of course, the context is that you will fight to retake Omega. So yes, as you say, it's a bit gory, and there's a lot of actions in it because obviously you're fighting, and you're fighting with Aria. So as a squad mate, so it also adds to it. But really the focus still is really storytelling DLC and story-driven DLC around. So there's two phases. There's the exploration part. The entire 4 hours of gameplay takes place in Omega, in the station itself. So you will revisit places like the Goza District, Afterlife, but you will also discover a brand like the Omega Underground. And again, people who play the franchise know how the underground is important in Omega. And the second part is Aria's background and Aria's history. Yeah, and that's it.
That was the thing. I mean, Aria, there's a lot to get into here, because like you said, Omega was a huge part of Mass Effect 2, and Aria was a huge part of the game. With the third one, it felt very much there was story still to be told. Obviously, she turns around you when you meet her in Mass Effect 3 and tells you Omega's been taken over, and you just know that's DLC at some point, or if that doesn't turn up in the main story, that will be a DLC point. But what I'm interested in, Aria's always being someone, always sitting down, always, ruling her little world, basically, from a couch. So it's very interesting to see her as an action character now, really. How do you translate a character from someone who's an overlord of Omega to someone that's fighting alongside you?
Yeah, so what we did is going back to the roots of who the character is. And so when we create a character in BioWare, the writers are always going through a lot of iteration, and we actually do have a lot of backgrounds around those characters, even if at the end in the game you won't see them. Yeah. And that was the case for Aria. And one thing that Aria is fueled by is revenge, anger. So when everything goes relatively fine, which was the case in Mass Effect 2, she's ruling, everything is good. And if she has to kill 1 or 2 people, that's fine. And it's not a big effort. Yeah. But now the context is really different for 2 reasons. First, she has been ousted, so she has been humiliated, and she's not going to send troops to deal with that. She's going to deal with that personally. And this is where we get back to her personality. She could stay on a ship and say, ravage Omega and go there and do that. That's not Aria.
That's her home.
Yeah, that's her home. And she wants to get to General Petrovsky herself.
So. What's the case of also, she's not the only character we meet in the DLC. We also see a show and tell of a female Turian.
Absolutely. So Naryn is a female Turian, as you just said. And there's a lot of things I don't want to spoil around that, because as I said, it's a 4 hours DLC. But let's put it that way. Naryn is a very important character in Aria's history. She has a very special relationship with Aria. And Shepard, again, we're back to what choices you want to make. So Naryn and Aria have similar goals, but very different methods. And Shepard will have to deal with this weird relationship, love-hate relationship between those 2 characters. Yeah, that's...
With the choices that you made in previous conversations with Aria through 2 and 3, do they impact certainly how she gets on with you in this DLC?
Yes and no. So it's yes in the sense that there's a couple of things that, well, it's more her general behavior with you at the beginning. No, in the sense that the vast majority of the choices that will have an impact on you or Aria's character or how the DLC ends will be made during the DLC, obviously.
And is this the final motif for Aria? Is this you bringing her story to conclusion, or is there a sense that you want to maybe leave it open somewhat?
Oh no, it is open. I mean, Aria is a very, very important character for the Mass Effect universe, so now people will have to end the DLC to see what's going on next, because in that specific case, the choices and the way you play the DLC will have an impact on what Aria will become.
So basically what you're trying to tell me here is you're just going to have to wait and play the DLC.
You'll have to, yes. And there's a lot of new stuff also that you don't see in the demo. So in total we have 2 new enemies, you see only 1 here. There's 2 new weapons, got the new powers, but I think, yeah, like the demo you've played with most of them, Aria's powers and Narin's powers. So yeah, there's a number of things. But as I said again, it's 4 hours of gameplay, and there's a lot of time to tell a complex story in 4 hours.
Well, I guess in conclusion then, when can players get their hands on with it?
So in Europe it will be November 28th, North America on Xbox PC November 27th, and PlayStation 3 November 28th.
Nyreen. Aria.
Ready to put that gun to good use?